What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Technical Foul Podcast, brought to you by The Reflector. I'm one of your hosts, Jack Anderson. Glad you're all here today. Nice to see y'all. To my right, we have JP Pusilowski.
What's up, guys?
And to my left, Sanders Oakley, who we have been told by a listener looks like Jimmy Neutron. So
This is true.
I'm not sure if I agree, but
I'm
we can
getting
let
a
y'all
haircut
be the judge of that.
tomorrow. I'm getting a haircut. Look how. Hold up. That is so long.
That's really not that long.
For me, it is. It's so
Maybe
long.
for you. But yeah, our resident Jimmy Neutron
When I get
on
out of the
set.
shower and it's wet, and so it's like all it's just so long. I'm getting it cut tomorrow morning. I can't. I almost buzzed it.
I mean, we can make that happen.
It would be cheaper than a haircut.
It would be cheaper. I could do it for free.
I still can't believe I got compared to Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, personally, I don't see it.
Who's the other one? The Conan O'Brien. I think I've been compared to him sometimes with my hair.
Okay.
Fair.
That one may be a little more accurate in terms of the hair. Jimmy Neutron is just a cartoon, so his hair is one of a kind. Like, no one really gets that hair.
True. Thankfully.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm
facts.
not walking around with hair like that.
Anyway, thanks for joining us. Kind of a
Also, sorry,
No, you got
same
it.
person. No, different person. Someone else. Never mind. I got people mixed up. My bad.
Okay. Anyway, agenda for today is MSU sports updates, as always on Sunday. We'll do a reaction to the Final Four games that were last night, and then we'll do a championship preview. Probably not the most in-depth preview, considering we've talked about Houston and Florida about 4 times each now, but we'll give our thoughts on the matchup. And then we have to reveal the name of our chicken.
True.
Almost spoiled it. That would have been devastating for the program, but
Well, we already tweeted it, so it is out there. But if you haven't seen the tweet,
well,
this is going to be a
this
big
is true.
surprise.
This is true.
Also, I
Um,
remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
I
Go
get the after the whole Jimmy Neutron thing, I have decided I'd get the most hate on this podcast. A family member told me that Jack was his favorite podcaster. One of my family members told me Jack was his favorite of the group of 3.
And he's my favorite podcast listener. So
Yeah. And then now I'm getting compared to Jimmy Neutron. That one was out of pocket last night. And then what else? Oh yeah, I'm always I always get outvoted on everything.
Well, I was about to say,
I
have you
finished last in the TikTok competition.
have you ever noticed that maybe you get the most hate because you have the worst takes? Just a thought. Just a
I
thought.
don't think that's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see as we, as more and more takes get out there, we're bound to have some swings and misses.
Larger sample size.
Exactly.
Sample size.
But we can go and hop into the before we hop into the MSU sports updates, there's just it's been a big weekend in sports, honestly. UConn, South Carolina played in the Natty today. UConn blew them out 82-59. Huge win. It was their first Natty in a while.
Yeah, it was
2016.
2016.
Mm-hmm. Paige Beckers
Beckers.
gets sent off kind of, into the sunlight on the back of national championship. She's earned it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Gone through injuries and stuff in college. It'll be fun to see her play in the WNBA. But huge for UConn. Alex Ovechkin set the NHL goal record today for a career with 895, breaking Wayne Gretzky's record. Wayne Gretzky was in the house. It was a cool moment. So shout out to him. I'm kind of a Capitals fan. My dad grew up in the D.C. area, so he's a Capitals fan. I don't really watch much hockey, but if I had to claim a team, it's them. And so I've followed his career a little bit. It's just been cool to see. He's phenomenal at the sport of hockey, so shout out to him. And then from across the pond, the Premier League, possibly the greatest Premier League player ever. There's debate. He's top 5. Kevin De Bruyne has announced he's leaving Manchester City at the end of the season. I'm a huge Manchester City fan, as some of y'all probably know. So I'm still in mourning about it. Just pure greatness in a footballer. Sadly, his legs are just going a little bit. He doesn't have the mileage or can't withstand the mileage that the league demands anymore. So the club is not offering him a new contract. But that rocked the soccer world early Friday morning. I woke up and got on my phone, and that was the first thing I saw on Instagram was his farewell post, and it
That was our first. That's a big
hit like a
deal.
truck.
That was our first soccer news.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So that's kind of, we're not going to spend any big time on those topics, but I feel like they all deserved a shout out from over this past weekend. And now we can go and hop into MSU sports updates, unless any of y'all have any thoughts on on any of those things.
Well, we do have an announcement to make.
Oh yeah, this is a big one.
Thursday, April 24th, we will be live streaming the NFL Draft. So please come in and check us out. We'll be live streaming on YouTube. We know you guys are tired of hearing Mel Kiper and Stephen A. Smith and hearing their takes on draft night, hearing Lewis Riddick's takes on draft night. Come watch our draft takes instead. Sanders is going to have a breakdown of all the teams, and we're going to be here throughout the entirety of the first round and giving you a breakdown of where teams are thinking and then reaction to picks as well. And then you got unique circumstances with, like, Jack's Commanders are picking that night and my Saints are picking that night. Well, you'll get to see live reactions from a fan of that team. And so it'll be really cool, especially this year with it seems like this is going to be a draft that's very open and a lot of potential craziness to happen. Some of those craziness you've probably seen from our takes on TikTok, or you will see from our takes on TikTok. But come watch us for the NFL Draft on Thursday, April 24th. We'll start at 6:45 Central Time.
I will. I'm nervous. It's gonna be just me for the first little bit because these guys have a intramural basketball.
We have some
game.
business to attend to first.
Hopefully
Yes.
getting a dub, and so it's gonna be me solo podcasting for the first bit. So
First few picks,
yeah, honestly, at the rate the NFL Draft goes, y'all might not miss anything. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Each team has 10 minutes between each pick, and then there's also like 5 minutes of getting the player up on stage and all of that. So
I'm excited to see JP's reaction. He's on record saying if they draft Jackson Dart, he's retiring as a Saints fan.
yeah, much like Mad Mel Kiper's Ty Schmidt's reaction when the Packers took Jordan Love on the Pat McAfee show roughly 5-6 years ago, you'll probably see a similar reaction if that were to happen on April 24th if Jackson Dart goes at 9. But tune in for that. There's a chance that happens. I hope it doesn't happen. That would be bad.
As a hater, I kind of hope it happens. I think it'd be funny.
Cool thing about I'm just doing some impromptu on the spot research. It looks. Oh wow. Okay, so
Shout out A&M,
UConn.
man.
UConn was not a 1 seed. UConn was a 2 seed. Historically, they're one of the most dominant teams in the country or in women's basketball history, but their program, they just weren't as good this year. There were other teams that were good. They were only the second non-1 seed to win since 2010, 2011. So LSU won it with Angel Reese in 2022, I guess.
Yes.
And then UConn just won it, and then A&M was a 2 seed.
Giggle.
So 2 seed A&M in 2011,
Shout out
3
Gary
seed
Blair.
LSU in 2022, and now 2 seed UConn in 2025. So that's kind of cool just because, especially in women's basketball, I feel like it is, if you pick a chalked bracket, you're typically going to win. So it's kind of cool to see a non-1 seed win it for just the third time in 14 years.
This guy over here knew, though. You had to lean.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had Vandy, so I lost round 1.
That hurts.
I went with the fun pick. I made my bracket in 45 seconds. I saw Michaela Blake's was so good in those couple games. I was like, what if she just has an insane postseason and scores 50 in every game? It was a pretty fun bracket to look at, but
It's going to be a tall task, but
Yeah,
we are seeing that from the men's side with Walter
Yeah.
Clayton. But yeah, I'll go ahead and get into our MSU sports update.
Let's do it, JP.
Men's tennis cooked. They're up to 17-1 in SEC play. Women's softball, we went 1-2 at Tennessee in Knoxville this weekend. Won the first game of a doubleheader on Saturday and then lost the second. Also a loss on Friday. Men's baseball got their first SEC series victory of the 2025 campaign.
Hashtag extend Lamonis.
Yeah, defeating a very, very good South Carolina team with a one-hit shutout today on Sunday. Bulldogs are now 3-9 in SEC play, and next week they'll be at Alabama. So that's kind of your sports update. I do want to give some sports update on men's basketball. We've seen a bunch of transfers. Michael Nwoko committed to LSU. Riley Kugel committed to UCF. Share a Diet Coke with Riley. And Kanye Cleary committed to Oklahoma State.
I can do women's basketball.
Yeah,
You
sure,
want?
go ahead.
Medina Okad is in the portal. Has not said where she's going. Debrisha Poe's in the portal. I saw about an hour ago that there's an Arizona State player who averaged 18 a game last year, a 5'5" point guard who's visiting here in the coming weeks. When I saw it, I didn't realize it was women's, and the photo, I was like, I had poor service, and so it just said 5'5" point guard visiting Mississippi State. And I thought it was men's basketball. And then the photo loaded, and it was her in her Arizona State gear. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes – I don't know why. I was just like –
Could you imagine a starting backcourt of Josh Hubbard and a 5'5" point guard?
Well, we always had it with Kanye.
I mean, if
So,
he was
yeah,
averaging
2, 5,
18 a
9,
game in the
5,
Big
10
12,
guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
5'9" is a different animal than 5'9".
Yeah.
5'5" and 5'9" is very – anyway, so that was just a really funny moment. But, yeah, women's basketball, it's definitely – and this is just kind of the nature of – I feel like most sports now is
College athletics.
college athletics is every year you have to reload, and reload has an entirely different meaning than it did 8 years ago. Because you say the best teams don't rebuild, they reload. Now every year you could have. I mean, I 3 weeks ago thought that we were going to be returning Medina Okot and Debrisha Poe and Quinaya Cherry Montague as like 3 kind of cornerstones of a team going into next season. And now that's not the case, and so you have to hit the transfer portal so hard, and it's just musical chairs, and it's just very frustrating as a fan to experience because it's like, well, I was emotionally attached to this player, and now they're
Sure.
gone. So
We're-
it's rough.
We're in the
Rough all
era
around.
now where you literally see posts being like, so-and-so has committed to a new deal at the school they've already been playing at. Like, that's big news. Just a huge 180 from where we were even, like, I don't know, 5 years
Yeah.
ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I don't hold anything against the players for
Oh, no.
taking advantage of the situation. It just needs to be fixed. So hopefully that comes soon.
I think that goes in towards the lesson that I've been trying to get across to a lot of people recently or the past few years. It's enjoy what you've got while you've got.
Oh, okay, I
Got
thought you were
it.
gonna say something else.
If the team is good right now, enjoy that team is good right now, and don't expect that goodness to be around forever. That's just it's just not going to happen in college athletics.
Anything y'all want to add as the MSU fans of the show?
Enjoy softball because they're the good program right now.
True.
I don't know. I mean, baseball seems to be on the up and up after their series win this weekend. I'm trolling, guys.
Yeah, Jack, tell us.
We couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying.
We're going to get hate comments. Not actually. We don't get comments at all, so I really don't think we're going to get hate comments.
Well,
Plenty of comments. We got a really good comment. Jimmy Neutron was a comment.
that's true. Yeah. What are you talking about? No comments. Come on now. That's such a funny man. The fact it was a blue comment too is just hilarious.
Very
All
true.
right.
If you don't know who Jimmy, gosh,
Should I put a photo on the screen? Do I
No,
need
you
to?
don't have
I feel like most people know who
Everyone
Jimmy
knows
Neutron
Jimmy
is.
Neutron.
I didn't know who Jimmy Neutron was.
That's crazy. Homeschooled.
Okay. I met someone today, and I told them they're homeschooled, and their jaw dropped.
That you were homeschooled?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's fair.
I told them, I was like, wait, like, I'm used to everyone being like, yeah, saw that one coming. She's like, no, I never would have guessed. I was like, oh.
You're far enough removed now.
Yeah, I'm 5 years removed from homeschool.
So-
like, if you can still tell 5 years removed, that's concerning.
Yeah.
Also, she doesn't see me very much. I mean, she's a coworker.
Yeah,
So, like,
sure. She sees you at work. Like,
correct.
it's a different environment.
Mhm.
Anyway, we can roll into our Final Four reaction. Kick it off with the first game of the day yesterday, Florida versus Auburn. Auburn was up the majority of the first part of that game, and then in kind of classic Florida fashion, this tournament kind of roared back in the second half. They had a kill shot in the second half, an 11-0 run that I believe gave them the lead. If
It
not,
gave them the lead.
yeah.
Yes.
and they didn't really look back. It was close down the stretch. Teams trading buckets and whatnot. Start of the game, Walter Clayton again, 34 points, has just been masterful. Anytime Florida needs a bucket, he's there to deliver. Just doesn't matter. He kind of seems unguardable right now. JP, what are your thoughts on the game?
It was the game was going the way that when we discussed it, that it needed to go for Auburn to win.
Yeah.
Get out to that lead early and kind of keep that lead, and not fall behind to Florida. It also kind of looked like it was going to go the same way that the first Florida-Auburn game went, which is where Auburn was up by double digits early, and then Florida just like went on a massive run.
Yeah.
And took over in the second half. So credit to Auburn for sticking with it, and they kept the game where it was when Florida made that run. It was 49-40 with 18 minutes remaining in the second half, and Florida went on an 11-0 run to take the lead. And then the last 4 minutes, it was close. It was actually a 1-point game, 69-68.
Yep.
And the Tigers were outscored 10-5 in the last 4 minutes. Walter Clayton was just outstanding. He's currently shooting 48% from three in the tournament. And again, he was huge yesterday with some timely threes down the stretch, especially in that 40-49, that a little 11-0 run. He scores 5 of those points. Baker Mazzara, I got to give him credit. He was dealing with a hand injury on his shooting hand, and he scores 18 points and hits multiple huge threes. Broome, you could clearly tell, was struggling with that elbow/arm injury on his right arm. He only goes for 15 points. And the big thing, the X factor we talked about, Pettiford, he only scores 7 points and was 1 of 6 shooting. Auburn's big bucket getter, which it clearly showed they lacked in the last 5 minutes, has a bad game, and Florida pulls out a big victory. They again snatch victory from the claws of defeat, and you got to give them a ton of credit to go out there and beat Auburn again down there in San Antonio.
Yeah. Good work from Florida all around. Ton Golden, some good in-game adjustments. I feel like he outcoached Rich Pearl a little bit. For this Auburn team, it was a great season. Obviously, not how they wanted to end it, especially with a couple key guys going out the door, in Janai Broome and such. Great careers from them. As an Auburn hater, can't say I'm too sad to see it. But yeah, I mean, man, they just didn't have enough, to be honest. Florida just kind of had more to give, and Florida's best player was better than Auburn's best player, and I feel like that simply is kind of what it came down to towards the end of the game.
It was clear Auburn played outstanding for roughly 20 minutes, especially that first half. Defensively,
Yeah, ball pressure was great.
The ball pressure, their defensive scheme on the handoffs. Florida was having to operate from the 3-point line and in. Condon struggled tremendously. Howe was struggling in the first half. He really only scored his big points on some 3 balls. And, there were multiple moments where it was just like Howe or Condon couldn't get it to Clayton or Martin or Richard on any of these handoffs. And then they were forced to go one-on-one against Janai Broome or Dylan Cardwell. And they just were not successful at that at all. So a ton of credit to Coach Golden for changing that up in the second half. You could tell that they made an adjustment there, and they were able to get their playmakers to the ball. Elijah Martin scores a ton of his points in the second half, and Clayton hits big threes down the stretch. Auburn was destroying them. They were not destroying them, but they were dismantling them physically. They clearly looked like the better team, and then Florida puts on the adjustments, and they take over the second half, and then you could clearly see that Auburn didn't adjust, and they kind of just they took a few shots I didn't like.
That's been their
down
issue all season at times.
The Baker
is
Mazzara
shot selection stuff.
The Baker Mazzara 3 with 45 seconds left.
Yeah, your season came down to a Baker Mazzara essentially shot chuck, and then there was another one where he gets it open and then he pump fakes for no reason when he should have just shot, and he travels. And those are 2 of your biggest possessions of the entire season come down to Chad Baker Mazzara.
One of the most experienced players in college basketball.
Yeah, so
Will he be back for another year?
Luckily for Auburn, he'll be back for another year at age 25 and 26.
Insane.
But yeah, you don't really want your season, especially with the way Janai Broome have been playing this entire year. And again, I think it was the lack of Pettiford and his lack of effectiveness really hindered them down the stretch. It was clear that Bruce Pearl wasn't going to give him the ball down the stretch, and this entire tournament he's been getting it down the stretch and hitting big shots. And without that, it was like, oh, now who do we turn to? You can't really just feed Janai Broome at least in this version of basketball, it's hard to feed Janai Broom the ball every single time.
Someone's got to hit a shot from outside
Yeah.
at some point.
Although Broom, in my opinion, deserves the ball down there on the post every single time. But yeah, Florida, ton of credit to them for leading another comeback. We'll see if they can
Question.
finish it out.
So you talk about like not knowing who to get the ball to. I'm just looking at this. Before those 2 missed threes, Baker Mazar was 4 for 5 from 3 on the night. He was shooting 6 of 8 from the floor before those. He led the team in points with 18. I kind of wonder if maybe I disagree with you because while Todd Pettiford was shooting, he was 0 for 4 from 3. Maybe Mazzara was kind of the hot guy for the night, and so you kind of do just have to let him shoot it because your shooter Pettiford was 0 for 4. Like you just go with the hot hand and hope it falls, and it didn't, unfortunately for Auburn.
Yeah, they're just not the looks you want for Chad. I feel like
Yeah.
Baker Mazar's not really a shot creator. He'll hit big shots from deep, but if you really need someone to create a bucket, I don't necessarily know if he's your guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you are right. It is tough if Pettiford's not playing well. Someone has to try and do it, and I guess he's never one to shy away from
Yeah.
trying to make something happen,
Yeah.
and it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
But yeah. Do you have any other thoughts, Sanders?
No. Oh, actually, yes. So I was watching this game at my house. I was exhausted because I've been working the baseball game. I was sunburned, and so halftime rolls around. I set my phone. I was gonna take a 30-minute nap. Auburn was kind of up 8, and it had been up by more. And I was kind of like, okay, this isn't it's still a good game, but Auburn's kind of got this. Auburn is looking, like you said, this is playing out how Auburn wants it to. Go to sleep, wake up, and it's tied. And I was like, oh,
What I missed?
Schubert,
Yeah.
what happened? So I guess, was that when the 11-0 run happened? Okay,
Yeah.
so I missed
It
that.
happened in the first 2 minutes of the second, or the first 4 minutes of the second half.
Yeah, I woke up with 15:30 left in the
Yeah,
second
you
half.
you just
So I
missed it
just
then.
missed it, which explains why I was kind of confused. Y'all talking about the 11-0 run. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking about. So that was my experience of the game. Super fun. I do think that all the people claiming that we were going to be rewarded because we hadn't had any March Madness, I do think there was some truth in that because this was a very, very fun matchup to watch. It was, yeah, I think that, and we can talk about that after we do reviews. We can talk about, does this Final Four, or do you think this Final Four changed our perspective on how the tournament should be viewed, relative to other tournaments?
In terms of how good I think this tournament was?
Yeah.
Not really, because I watch March Madness for the madness. I watch the NBA playoffs for great basketball. And also I'm greedy, so I don't see why I can't get the madness and then in the first couple rounds, and then we still normally see the best teams advance far. Not always, but normally. And then we can still get good Final Fours in tournaments where has also been madness. And so it definitely helps, especially if the finals tomorrow night are really good. It is going to help my view, but it doesn't make this one of the best March Madnesses ever for me, or even one of the better ones, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree with Jack. I think the March Madness, it should be where you have your cake and eat it too. And we've seen that. Even the teams that made the big runs and made the Final Fours, we still have gotten great games out of those as well. Like the San Diego State FAU game,
Fantastic.
with Lamont Butler hitting the game winner. The North Carolina Duke game was an 8-seed North Carolina and a 2-seed Duke, and then the championship between Kansas and North Carolina was excellent. We've seen these tournaments have great games down the stretch. I thought the Alabama-UConn game was really, really good last year, and that was a tournament with the NC State making their run all the way to the Final
UConn
Four.
won by 14.
I thought it was a good game, though.
Okay.
I don't think
I'm just looking back at old to kind of see how Final Fours played out.
I don't think these two games necessarily gave us that. While they were great games, I think we've been told that these teams have been excellent all season, and they have. And I don't think they necessarily showed that this weekend. Duke, struggles against Houston.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second.
But yeah, I think I still wish that there was no madness. Their
One buzzer beater
one buzzer beater.
all tournament, right? It was the Maryland game.
Yes, Derek Queen.
It's not even like buzzer beaters aren't super common, but it's even like very few like last second shots to even take leads or tie it up, let alone buzzer beaters. But anyway,
Yeah. What do y'all remember about the 2017-2018? Oh, well, that was the UMBC year, so that
yeah, there's some madness for you there.
I'm just looking at the Final Four. Michigan beat Loyola 69-57. Villanova beat Kansas 95-79, and then beat Michigan 79-62.
Well, that was the Dante DiVincenzo pop-off game in the finals.
Yeah.
I do obviously not the best natty ever, but I feel like the score doesn't really quite do that game justice.
Okay.
Because those were a couple really good teams, and I mean,
And then also you have UMBC and Loyola both making their runs.
yeah,
So immediately you're just like, well, that was a good march.
yeah. I mean, the Loyola Chicago run
Wichita
will be
State losing as a 4 seed to a 13 seed.
shout out the Shockers. I mean, yeah, the Loyola Chicago run will be remembered forever.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's a little more what March is about than a couple really good Final Four games.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
But I am at least glad that we got good games.
I agree. Like, obviously,
It would have sucked if we went through all of this like chalk and then got to the Final Four and it was like, well, Florida's just gonna whoop Auburn again, and then Duke is gonna just play Houston's game and win by 21. Like,
yeah, sure.
I am grateful that we got 2 good games.
And speaking about the Duke-Florida game, I think we can go Duke-Houston game. I think we can go ahead and move on there.
I wish that segue was intentional, but
And this game, I'm a little frustrated by it still, to be honest. Me and JP especially sat here last Wednesday and told y'all that we didn't really see an avenue for Houston to win this game. Houston obviously disagreed with us. Their avenue was to let Duke give them the game, is kind of how it felt. Duke controlled this game for 30 minutes, even a little more than that. Cooper Flagg was great. It just felt like, kind of like exactly what we said, to be honest. Duke was playing Houston's game. It was a bit of a slower game.
Yes, it was in the 60s, exactly where Houston wants it.
And it didn't matter because Duke was just kind of up 8, up 10, up 12, around there for a large stretch of the game. And then I don't know what happened, if Duke got tired, if Houston adjusted, they did what they did and just the pressure kicked in. And suddenly Duke just started struggling to score the basketball. One field goal in the last 10.5 minutes of the game for Duke, which is insane. Missed free throws. Tyrese Proctor missed the front end of a big 1-and-1 with a little under a minute left.
Yep.
Turned it over on an inbounds pass with a little under a minute left. Just kind of a collapse down the stretch. And Houston took full advantage. They hit shots. Down the stretch, I saw Houston in the last couple minutes of the game. They rebounded all 4 of their misses. So they got 4 huge offensive rebounds. Duke just kind of crumbled, and it came kind of down to like what Houston normally does to other teams is how it felt. So just I don't know. I'm kind of shocked still sitting here that Houston won this game, but shout out to them. Shout out to Kelvin Sampson finally making it to the finals. This is a really good group. LJ Cryer also had a big game, 26 points. Hit a bunch of threes. 6 of 9 from 3, which is at a great clip. They needed someone to hit some outside shots to keep them in this game, and that was him. Flagg had 27. And honestly, at 27, didn't even feel like he played phenomenal. Missed a couple layups, stuff like that. But JP, what do you have on this game?
Yeah, it was Duke dominates this game for literally 32 minutes. They led by 14 with 8 minutes to go, and they led by 9 with 2.5 minutes to go. And they just got. I don't think they got tired down the stretch. I just don't think they executed down the stretch.
I think that's fair.
Kelvin Sampson clearly outcoached John Shire for those last 5 minutes. Duke mishandled a ton of scenarios. Biggest one that steps out is free throws, but I don't understand how we can be the best team in basketball, but then fail to be able to execute an inbounds play.
They had the one, and Sion James just didn't get it to Con.
And we saw this in the Florida game, the Florida-Auburn game. Florida executes 2 inbounds late down the stretch and is able to keep Auburn at bay. Duke, literally, all they had to do was get the ball in bounds and then get it up the floor. And To me, I think Zion James shouldn't have been the inbounder. Clearly, he was very hesitant. He missed Knuppel open once, and then defensively,
Their best free throw shooter.
and that's the guy you're trying to get the ball, him or Cooper Flag in that
Yep.
scenario. And you can't. If you fail to do that, you kind of lean it into Houston's hands. And then in their offensive sets, I thought down the stretch were just not good enough. A Knuppel driving left-handed layup where he got swatted. That's not really his expertise. He's more of a spot-up shooter.
Yeah.
And now you're having him drive with his opposite hand. I thought the Cooper Flag play to potentially win the game was a good one. He just missed the shot. I do wish there was a little bit more to it. I don't think we've seen Cooper Flag be a dominant one-on-one player this season. He's more of been a dominant player when he's through the flow of an offense. And Duke's inbounds play was literally they threw it to Knuppel. Zion James sets a screen to look for a switch. It was a terrible screen, so there's no switch. And now it's just Flag one-on-one from the wing.
With a great defender in Juwan Roberts
with
on
a
him.
great defender in Juwan Roberts on him, who he can't back down because Roberts is bigger than him. And Flag at that point in the game isn't going to, get by him easily because he's fatigued at that point. And so he's forced into a fading away 12-footer, which he leaves short because he's fatigued. You don't really want to have a guy shooting a fadeaway that late down the stretch.
Yeah, it's
especially in a big game.
The fact he left it short is like the least surprising thing ever.
Yeah, absolutely. But credit to Houston. They fought down the stretch. You get in those moments where you are trying to make that comeback, especially late. You have to hit the shots, and they did. They hit a huge three to make it 64-67. They get the steal off the inbounds, and their player goes and takes the three, and they are there for the offensive rebound because they don't give up on it, and they dunk it at 66-67. Proctor misses the free throw. Yes, there's a questionable foul call on Duke and Cooper Flag for the over the back.
Shouldn't have even mattered.
I agree with Jack. It shouldn't matter at that point in the game.
Houston got the rebound.
Off what?
You talking about the Cooper Flag foul?
Yeah.
Flag would have got that rebound, in my opinion. But
Houston
I agree.
ended up with it.
yeah,
Because the foul was called as
the whistle
as,
was blown.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Flag probably ends up getting to it if the whistle isn't blown. But it shouldn't matter. You want one field goal in the last 10 minutes and 30 seconds, and then missing free throws and failure to execute plays especially when you had all of these timeouts. You were even given a free opportunity on a technical foul because Houston reaches across the line on an inbounds. As coaches, you have to have plays, and you have to have a Rolodex of plays for scenarios like that, and you have to execute them. That's where you come into play. It's motivation, but another one, it's X's and O's. It's putting the players in the right spot.
Yep.
And if you fail to do that, it's not on the players. It's on you. And in my opinion, it's on Jon Scheyer. Clearly, his lack of coaching experience at the head coaching level showed a little bit here. And for Duke, it's inexcusable because we've said it multiple times, and a lot of the media said it. This is one of the greatest college basketball teams of all time. It's one of the greatest teams in terms of KenPom history. And to come down to the Final Four and you fail to execute the little things,
Yep.
It is extremely frustrating, I could understand, for Blue Devils fans, because this is college basketball. We talked about it earlier. Teams are teams. You don't really build programs. You don't keep guys coming back. Players transfer. Players leaves. At Duke, you have a ton of one-and-dones every single year.
The Duke team's going to look entirely different next year.
Yes, so you get one chance at this, and they failed miserably down the stretch after dominating the entire tournament and dominating much of the season. It's just inexcusable, and they're going to live with this heartbreak forever because, you get one chance to have that one shining moment, and you failed to do it, and you don't even get a chance to play for the championship. I got a feel for Duke fans, but, you got to execute down the stretch there, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah, I just not there at all. We can talk about kind of. I see you have it down here as your X factor. Kaban Malawak was -20 in this game. Once again, we hyped him up big time on the Wednesday show. He's 6 inches taller than any player on Houston's team. Houston's team does play big, but still, I mean, that's a huge height difference. As I said, -20, had 4 fouls. I think he made 1 field goal, had 0 rebounds in this game. Just completely dominated in the paint by Houston's bigs in a game that he, I think, really had an opportunity to show how good he was. And he just, I mean, the lights were brighter than expected. Just was not there at all. And I think that really hurt Duke's inside presence because who else were they going to have score inside? It was your only other option was kind of Cooper Flagg driving and getting to the rim because Malik Brown isn't an offensive asset either. And so I think that really hurt Duke's chances. 0 rebounds is astounding for a 7'2" guy.
Yes, absolutely.
That is actually crazy.
Yeah.
You said he was 6 inches taller.
Yeah, he's 7'2",
How many minutes
I
did he
believe.
play?
he
Did
played
he-
21, and a lot of it was due to foul trouble.
I
But
was about to say that was the thing you
Which
said is
that-
if Houston got Malawak into foul trouble, it
Malawak
gave him a
or
chance.
Flagg, yeah.
it reminded me a lot of the 2022 North Carolina and Duke, where Mark Williams got into foul trouble early in that game. He got 2, I think, in the first 4 minutes. And Mark Williams could easily take over those games. He was obviously, in my opinion, better than Armando Bacot. But yeah, I mean, the one way Houston could have it where they could win the game. Duke beats themselves. They get Malawak in foul trouble early, and this game stays in the 60s, high 60s. It just went Houston's way. I gotta give ton of credit to Kelvin Sampson. For one, this is a Houston team that we now may think of them as, oh, they're one of the big brands of college basketball. They really haven't been. I mean, 15 years ago, they were in Conference USA.
Yeah.
And they've jumped up to the American, and now they are the premier talent in the Big 12. 5 years ago, Kelvin Sampson was literally filming like videos where he was going
That
to
was such a cool clip.
college students, trying to get them to just come to the game. He would offer them stuff, and it's crazy to see how far Sampson has taken this team, and then to have the success finally. They reached the Final Four in the bubble year, or not the bubble year, but the COVID year, and now they come back and they get to play for a national title, and I think they got a good chance of winning it, which I'll make that pick here in a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
Sanders, you want
Yeah.
to hype up your new team, I guess? Not your new team,
My
but
new team.
your new love.
Oh yeah. I've just been making notes as we've been talking, stuff I've been thinking about. One of my questions is a couple questions, couple thoughts, just to keep conversation going. So one of the things that people have been talking about is Duke struggled. Like you said, they didn't stop trying in the last 8 minutes, but they just stopped executing. The lights got too bright, I think you said, or someone else said. You said that about Malawak, maybe?
It's a famous Jared Allen line
Yes.
after they lost in the NBA playoffs last year.
Yeah, so the lights got too bright. I guess my question is, people are wondering, is it because of Duke's conference? So if you look at KenPom, the Big 12 had 7 teams in the top 30. The ACC had 1. That was Duke. You had to go down to 31st to find UNC, the next ACC KenPom team. And so you could wonder, was Duke just kind of they hadn't played a good opponent in 2.5 months. They had in the tournament, but it was just Duke looked different against Houston than they had all season, especially in those last 8 minutes. They stopped executing. Could just the different opponent be one of the reasons?
I think it could be one of the reasons for sure. Even just in the way the team's makeup was, Houston was just kind of always had a leg up in kind of a crunch time scenario. Now, I didn't necessarily think 9 with 2 minutes left was really a crazy crunch time, high pressure scenario.
Yeah.
It quickly became that.
Yes.
So I definitely think that could be a factor, but I just don't think there's any excuse to crumble down the stretch like Duke did.
Yeah.
Could
it potentially? So one of my issues in angle ball is if I get up big, I kind of take my foot off the gas and just start goofing around. is there a possibility that Duke got overconfident? And once you get overconfident and it's like a racehorse. If that racehorse misses a step, it's over. You can't regain the pace. You can't get back to the pace you were at because you missed that step, and now you're out of rhythm, and it's just impossible to kind of get back to that peak performance you were at.
Yeah, I feel like there's honestly two different questions there.
Okay.
In terms of like getting overconfident and then missing a step.
Okay.
Because I think you can miss a step without becoming overconfident.
That's
if that
fair.
makes sense.
That's fair.
I don't really think they became overconfident. I didn't really see signs of that while watching the game. There's a chance, I guess, they missed a step, and I really do think it just comes down to, I guess you could say it's missing a step, but down the stretch, I mean, we said it, one field goal made, no one scored. No one could score.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg was the only one with the field goal. He hits a 3 to make it 64-55.
This was a huge 3. I do wonder if there's kind of a sense of where it just was like, Cooper Flagg has done so much for this team, and so it's like, we can just let kind of Cooper Flagg do his thing in terms of the other people on the team, Sion James, and I mean, Concanipple had a pretty good game too, but like a Tyrese Proctor, and then, Cooper Flagg could just only do so much, and then the other people just didn't make their plays. But I really don't think it was an overconfidence thing. I don't think we've seen that from this group this year, or really in this game.
Cool. Another thing, Cooper Flagg falls to 0 for 4 on last minute close game shots now, right?
Yeah.
He missed against Clemson. He missed against
It was Kentucky.
Who was their other loss? Or did he miss? I think he missed 2 against one of those teams.
Kansas was a loss.
Yeah.
Kansas.
So Cooper Flagg now falls to 0 for 4, which is, for me, who I made that point that he wasn't clutch when we did our Player of the Year picks 6 weeks ago. It's kind of funny to see that actually happen again in the Final Four. I do not think Cooper Flagg lacks clutch. I saw someone tweet that NBA managers should be wary and don't pick him and let him fall to 12 or 14 before you pick him. I think that's insane. I think he should go first overall. But I don't think he lacks clutch. I think it's unlucky, and I also think it's a really tough shot. But it was interesting to see that, especially because I kind of said that 6 weeks ago. I was like, all right, cool.
I don't think it was a lack of clutch or anything like that. He had a huge 3 to make it 64-55. He also made both of his free throws while the rest of the team was missing free throws in those final 2 minutes. You have the wet court controversy with 2 of those game winners. I think the take on the ACC is a valid one. You miss Clemson there. Clemson's in the top 30. They're
Are they
23rd?
Oh,
they lost to Clemson.
They did, yeah.
And so that kind of doesn't necessarily invalidate that point. If anything, it more so validates it. The lack of competition, I think, it doesn't help a team. You hear coaches say that all the time, is they'd rather be tested early. And Duke was in some close games early in the not the off season, but the out of conference. But the lack of close games in conference play clearly showed a little bit, especially in this game. It was just a lack of execution, but mainly a lack of focus, a lack of clear direction down the stretch from the players specifically.
They all looked uncertain out there.
They've only played 40 games with each other, and so if you've only played, and they've only been in 5-6 scenarios where it was like this.
How many single-digit games do they have? Not single-digit games. Probably, like you said, 6.
Yeah, and so in those moments is when you build a ton of character and you build a ton of leadership. You know who you're going to. You know who you're relying on. And you can, especially when you have these are our last 5 guys that were playing in the last 5 minutes. They may not have been the guys that started the game or played a majority of the game, but these are our 5 guys down the stretch. It clearly showed that Duke was lacking that, and the lack of focus. I think it goes on John Shire. You as a head coach, just because your team doesn't have the experience in that moment. You've been on the Duke coaching staff for decades. You have to show that experience, and you have to show that type of leadership. You have to put them in the right spot. you have to have the plays that Houston hasn't seen out of you for the entirety of their film or whatever, and you run them then in those moments. You never really want to. You hear this sometimes with football, like you don't want your season to end on without the ball in your best player's hands, and I think Duke clearly they just failed at that down the stretch.
Yeah.
And I think it falls on John Shire way more than it falls on Flag here in this. Flag isn't clutch.
Yeah.
He's only 18. You
True.
know, he's got a long career to go. Players are going to miss shots, especially
LeBron's missed a ton. Curry's missed a ton.
Yeah.
I mean,
Flag is going number one, and he should because he's outstanding. And he showed in this game how outstanding he was. He was everywhere. He was clearly the best player on the floor, but I don't think he's at that point in his career where he can just take over a game, especially down the stretch. He's he's just excellent at doing everything basketball.
Yeah.
And
At
not necessarily
times-
one-on-one.
At times, it looked like he made his defense around him look like they were standing still. I mean, there was specifically the one play, and I don't remember. It was after I woke up from my nap, so it's the second half. I think it was probably like 8-10 minutes left. It was probably when Houston was kind of starting to close that gap. He closed out a defender and then got beat by a screen and then came around it and got that block. And it was just like, I don't know where the other defender that was supposed to be there was, but it kind of was like Cooper Flag was like, well, I mean, it's just me. I'm just going to do this, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
it was insane. It really, that one play, if you watch that, it was wild. Last thing I want to talk about.
well, hold on, I want to.
Oh, you go. You got it.
In terms of Cooper Flag and clutch narratives, that definitely doesn't help. But I completely agree with JP. There's just not very much of a sample size, and I know he slipped on the floor twice, but like in my opinion, it's still what are you
Needs
supposed
new
to do
shoes,
there?
honestly.
And you got the look. He, on the final shot in this game, it just didn't fall. When I saw Skip Bayless tweet, and it was something like, "I'm gonna have a video out on Cooper Flag's clutch conversation soon." I was like, I did the biggest eye roll because it's just like
Yeah.
it's just so stupid to me.
What was better, that or the Stephen A. Smith comparing him to Wade Cunningham?
I think Stephen A. Smith comparing him to Wade Cunningham was funnier for sure.
Yeah.
For the
Um,
listeners, Wade Cunningham is not a person. Cade Cunningham is the former #1 overall pick.
He also compared it was Walter Clayton to Wade
Yes,
Cunningham,
thank you,
not
thank
Cooper Flag, and also Walter Clayton, Cade Cunningham don't play anything alike. It's just a strange comparison, and then
Yes.
also you're calling him Wade Cunningham, which is really
Yeah.
funny. But yeah, maybe come back to me in 5 years, and if Cooper Flag is still,
Which I don't think. I don't think that's gonna
selling
be a
down the
problem.
stretch, we could have that conversation. I just don't know how that's the takeaway from this game at all. Is that he's not clutch? It's like 5th or 6th down the line. So sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I just want to talk for the end of my conversation about this game. I'm not doing my pick yet for the championship, but I want Houston to win.
I mean, I want Houston to win too.
I think it's so cool how they've done it so differently from every other team. I was just looking at this. I saw a tweet talking about the Houston program over the last 9 years. So 11 years. They hired Kelvin Sampson from the NBA in 2014. In 2016, they put $25 million into a practice facility. In 2018, they put $60 million into an arena upgrade. In 2018, they made the first March Madness. They got their first March Madness win in 34 years. In 2019, they set a school record 33 wins. In 2021, they reached their first Final Four in 34 years. And now they're playing for national title. Shout out Front Office Sports for that tweet. That was really cool to kind of see Houston. They didn't just say, well, we're going to go put $80 million into the transfer portal and bring in just a superstar, a super team of players that were like they've just built it slowly over the past 11 years, hiring a good coach, building a good practice facility, improving the arena, going out and like offering students donuts to get them in the seats. And it's just been this super slow build, and now it's kind of peaking. I really hope that it kind of continues. I hope that they keep playing the same way. So right now, 12 of their 14 players are Houston. Like they started their careers at Houston.
Yeah.
Only 2 players are transfers. I hope I hope next year they have a really good high school recruiting class, and most of the guys stay and continue to develop, because it's been. I really wish that I knew more about kind of the last 4 years. So the seniors now, like, what were they like 4 years ago as freshmen? A lot of them were 3 and 4 stars, like not a lot of 5 stars like Duke. So I just really like how Houston has done it. I like the attention it's got this year. Like you said, most people are now like, oh, well, Houston's just a national basketball brand. They're not. They did not begin the season that way, really. I mean, so it's pretty cool. I'm excited to see. I hope they win. I hope they keep playing basketball the same way. I hope they keep coaching and recruiting the same way and just kind of be different from everybody else. And hopefully that is how basketball. Hopefully this continues and spreads back. You know, it's a pendulum swinging back. Hopefully we get back this way.
Yeah. As we roll into the topic or the conversation about the finals, Florida Houston, it's really easy to take it for granted. 'Cause, I mean, 2018, I was 13, 14, roughly. And so it's really weird to think about Houston not being like a national program, because I just simply don't really remember it. It is very cool. I'm honestly curious to see how much longer Kelvin Sampson coaches for. He's 69 years old, I believe.
Really?
And so I don't know, I'd be interested almost if he won this one, if he would hang it up. I don't actually think so, but I think there's a chance of that. But he's done a really good job, and it has been fun to watch. Do we want to roll into
Let's
Florida Houston? I'll kick it off. So we talked about the Malawak versus Houston's front court discussion. I'm interested, and Houston's front court won that matchup pretty easily. And now it's a different kind of matchup in the same way in terms of Florida's definitely a lot bigger, and the difference is Florida has a lot of bodies there they can throw. And Duke really needed Malawak to stay out of foul trouble, like we said, and perform. But this is a game of, say, if Condon doesn't do well, Howe comes in, or Hayne Lockton comes in, or Chinalu comes in. So I'm interested to see what y'all think about kind of that matchup down low.
I'm intrigued to see it. I was surprised because I'd watched the Florida Auburn game, the first one, and I thought, and one of the big takeaways from that game was Condon and Howe dominated. They were 34 and I think 19 together in terms of points and rebounds. And then they went into this game against Auburn, where I thought they had an advantage offensively because they're just quicker and they're outside shooters compared to Broome and Cardwell. I thought it was going to help Florida a ton again. And then they struggled a lot. Howe really was the only one that played decent. He hits 2 pretty big threes in big spots during the game, but Condon was terrible.
I honestly feel like Howe's the one that's played great this tournament overall.
Yes.
I mean, a couple of other ones have had moments. I know Condon's been a little beat up. I think it's his ankle. I really don't know how much that's affecting him. But I've been pretty disappointed with him because I feel like he played great down the stretch of the regular season in the SEC tournament, and that just hasn't continued into this tournament. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, I mean, Condon's been the starter for pretty much the entirety of the year, except when he was hurt. Of course, Howe was starting. But no, I'm interested to see how that matchup now plays against Juwan Roberts and Houston's lack of big size. I'm interested to see if I think if Florida has the advantage there, they're going to win this game, and it doesn't really matter how well Walter Clayton plays.
Sure.
So I think that's probably the X factor, along with Walter Clayton. If they don't play well and they play like they did against Auburn, I think this is very quickly a game that Houston can win. I don't think Florida matches up well for Houston's guards. I think Houston matches up way better for Florida's guards, defensively at least. So I think that's kind of the X factor of the game besides Walter Clayton.
Yeah.
But I will go into Walter Clayton. Clayton's averaging 24.6 in the tournament, and like I said earlier, he's shooting 48% from 3 in the tournament. It kind of feels like to me that maybe we could see a potential spot where this team, Alabama's a little bit, where Alabama just relies so heavily on the 3 that eventually in a single elimination tournament, they're not going to shoot well and then lose. I wonder if that's going to be the case for Florida as well. I mean, Clayton has been outstanding for the better of an entire month and really the entire season. But like, what if he just has a bad game? We saw that with the Tennessee game when they were in Knoxville. He scores 10 points and they lose by 20 to Tennessee. Tennessee is another team that is similar in terms of makeup
Yeah.
to Houston. I'm really intrigued to see if that's something that could happen again. Now, like Jack has said this before, and it really is kind of becoming the truth. I don't know if you can really ever count out Walter Clayton, especially down the stretch. It doesn't really seem to phase him. What you send at him, he's going to just hit his big shots, and he's done that the entirety of the tournament. So it's the Florida bigs versus the Houston bigs, and then Clayton, I think, are the two X factors to this game.
Yeah, talking about the guard matchup, Walter Clayton's Walter Clayton. He could have a bad game. I'm not too worried about him against Houston's guards because, he's Walter Clayton. I feel like that Houston's guards could really affect like Elijah Martin and Will Richard, a bit more bigger guards. I feel like I think Houston could really get up in their face, and make them very uncomfortable on the outside. That being said, Elijah Martin has had some big games and could have another big game here. I just don't know. If Walter Clayton has a bad game, there's a chance Houston's other guards could cover it up because they are good enough too. I don't like the matchup. I agree.
I don't know if bad game, though, for Walter will be like 10 points. I think he's probably still gets 20 regardless of what happens. That's how good he's been playing.
Maybe just less efficient.
But just a little less efficient and not scoring like 34 like he did against Auburn.
Yeah. I think the big thing here, Florida keeps starting slow, and they keep coming out of it. There is no team I would want to start slow against less than Houston. We've seen Florida explode out of holes time and time again. They did in the Auburn game, both Auburn games. This is just I would not want to try and have to do that against Houston. It could happen, but I don't think Houston is going to really let Florida do that with the pace they play because we've seen doesn't matter who Houston has played, Houston dictates the pace. So if I'm Florida, I'm really looking to get out of the gate quick. And you don't even need to take a lead early. Obviously, that's ideal, but you can't get in these 9-point, 10-point holes against Houston. You're gonna really make it a really hard rest of the game to kind of fight out of that. Sanders, it kind of looked like you had something to.
Oh no, I just talking about the Houston. The media's not talking enough about how Houston overcame a 30-point deficit against Duke. Watching that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, watching. So the rule that we've kind of started using in the podcast is whatever Houston, the score just multiplied by 3. So a 5-point game feels like a 15-point game. A 10-point game feels like a 30. So we were watching that game, and every time Houston would score, we were watching with a group of people who some of them don't listen to the podcast, and I kept going, "Oh wow, it's still an 18-point game," and they're all like,
"What do you mean?
It's 6."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, you don't get it. It's 18. Trust." So anyway, Houston overcome. I mean, it was what? What was the actual biggest lead?
14.
Yeah, so
yeah,
42-point game, 42-point comeback. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is insane.
But I do have thoughts about so this game coming up. Basically, all tournament, I have had Duke as 1 and Florida as 1A. And I feel like a lot of people agree just because of the way they were playing. They were both peaking, or at least Florida was peaking, and then Duke was just the best team we've ever seen statistically. Houston just beat Duke, and I have Florida as if Duke is Gucci, then Florida is like Ralph Lauren. And so in my brain, while they don't line up 1-to-1, if Houston was able to handle Duke, which no one had really, Clemson got lucky. Clemson beat them, but it came down to a last-second turnover by the best player in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So Houston handled them better. And beat them, I think, in a way that was different than anyone else who had beat them. I would think that if Houston can do that to Duke, I trust them to do that to the second best team in the country in Florida.
Yeah, I think my thing with that take is Houston really wasn't handling Duke for the first stretch of that game.
Yeah.
And I know I just said that Florida doesn't want to get down early. I would trust Florida a lot more in late game situations than I would trust Duke. because of who's manning the helm and Walter Clayton. I think it's much less likely that Houston could find their way back into a game that they were down double digits in against Florida than Duke. That being said, I could so easily see Houston
Yeah.
winning this game.
I also feel like hindsight's 2020 in that, because I feel like 2 days ago we might not have said that, because in our brain Duke was the best team in the country. I mean, they had. It's just. I mean, it's easy.
Hindsight's-
Easy to say now that, like, oh well, I just.
hindsight is definitely 2020, but I mean, I said on the last show that I would, if I needed anybody in clutch time, I don't care. Cooper Flagg's the best player in the country. I want Walter Clayton Jr. So hindsight is 2020. We can look and be like, man, I trust Florida to hold a lead better than Duke because we just saw Duke not do it.
Yeah.
But I've always kind of been in the fact that I want Walter Clayton down the stretch, in a close game. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Do we want to pick this game?
Yeah. I'm gonna pick Houston. I think I feel like we're due for potential less efficient Walter Clayton game. I think the pace thing is a huge thing here. Houston playing at the fourth slowest pace. The difference in possessions per game is per 40 minutes is literally 8 possessions between these two teams.
Yeah.
Florida is one of the fastest teams in the country in terms of pace, and I think that was a big factor again in the Duke game. We saw Duke play against Arizona and Alabama where they were just running up and down the floor, and that played really, really well to Duke because they have a ton of players that can play that way really effectively. I think the slowing it down and forcing them into the half court hindered Duke a ton because they don't have a lot of experience doing that. And obviously, John Shire fails coaching-wise. I think that could be a similar thing that happens here with Florida, where if the pace is slowed down for a team that likes to play at such a fast pace and a team that plays well, forcing turnovers and going on these big scoring runs, which they've done a ton this year, where they just kind of take over 8 to 10 minutes. I think it's hard to do against, or it's going to be hard to do against Houston just because of how much they slow down the pace. An 11-0 run is going to turn into maybe a 5-0 run at most for Houston or against Houston. I think, I kind of feel like that win yesterday was just mega impactful for Houston compared to Florida's win over Auburn. I think it really, really is going to light a fire under this entire team. They were doubted against Duke. They'll be doubted again against Florida.
Do we have a spread? Did you?
One
have
and
a
a
spread?
Spread
half.
is 1.5.
Florida,
Which
favored.
is surprising. Florida was favored by 2.5 over Auburn, and Houston was a 5.5 point dog to Duke. So this is a surprising spread, and Vegas kind of feels the same way that Houston has kind of gotten this big boost of momentum here going to the big game. And then again, I think the home crowd is going to play a factor. In my opinion, Florida had the weakest crowd out of the 4 teams yesterday. Auburn had a really big crowd for their game, and then Duke showed up just as much as Houston did, although you could tell that with those big buckets down the stretch that the Houston crowd was really, really big in that arena.
They were hype.
It got very loud down the stretch. I think this is a game that favors Houston, and I unfortunately think Florida's kind of walked into a bad spot. They would much rather play Houston, in my opinion, but I don't know if this is a good matchup for them. Because we've only seen it once this season, where they have lost a game where they weren't just basically outscored, and that was against Tennessee. And I'm curious if that's going to happen again here against Houston. If this game is just going to go the way Houston needs it to go.
You're saying that they only lost one game where they didn't just lose in a shootout.
Yeah, their 4 losses are against Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee. And then there was another SEC loss. And the 3...
Not Ole Miss. They beat Ole Miss?
Georgia, at Georgia. And those 3 games, it was 88-83, 82-83, and the Kentucky game was in the 100s.
106, 100, I think.
Yeah. So this is not a team. The other loss was Tennessee, 64-44. I'm curious if that's going to happen tomorrow. In my opinion, I'm predicting that. I don't think it's going to be a 20-point victory for Houston, but I do kind of feel like with the slow starts for Florida and Houston's ability to control the pace against a team that pushes it as much as they do, and then if Walter Clayton plays bad, I don't know if the other guys are going to step up for Florida, because for the most part, the guys we've said Florida's been stepping up, especially down the stretch, but the guys that have been stepping up are Howe and Clayton. And if they don't step up, can you count on someone else to do that to win you a national title? I'm going to say no, in my opinion. I'm going to go with the Cougars here.
Yeah, I'm so conflicted because I agree with a lot of what you said, and especially the way Florida's front court has, especially with Condon, has not really played up to their standard for most of the season in this tournament. That really worries me against Houston. Is something I think Houston can take advantage of. But it's really hard to bet against Walter Clayton and the talent that Florida has. And so I'm just kind of stuck in the middle here. I think I'm going to go Florida. I think they just find enough scoring to get it done and hit enough shots to get it done. I mean, against a very tough, tough defense to do that against. But I'm going to predict, even though I said it's a bad matchup potentially for him, a big Elijah Martin game who hits some big shots, provides a secondary perimeter scorer and someone that can get to the rim as well as a slasher. That's just kind of going to be my read. Is maybe another. He had 17 in the Final Four game.
17.
Another 15 to 17 point performance from him, and with him and Clayton and Howe or someone in the front court can find some scoring and they get it done. Because they're not shabby defensively either. They have a good defense. It's not like,
absolutely.
it's not like
these are both two teams that are top 10 offensively and defensively.
correct. So it's not like it's a thing of like Florida has to score a ton to beat Houston. It's just probably gonna be another rock fight, and I'm gonna have Florida coming out of it as the winner.
This is crazy. I'm going to be on the winning vote.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
It's very rare. Usually y'all two vote, and then I'm over here like, well, I disagree, but it doesn't matter. I already did most of my breakdown earlier, which is just I consider Florida and Houston to be the two best teams in the country, and Houston, not what did I say? Florida and Duke. Florida and Duke.
Florida and Duke. 1A, 1B.
Florida and Duke to be the two best teams in the country, 1A, 1B. Houston figured out how to stop Duke, which I didn't think anyone was going to be able to do, and so it kind of makes me think they can stop anyone. I'm going to pick Houston. Yeah, I think it's kind of crazy. If they do it, we currently in the podcast bracket group, we have two potential champions. One picked Florida and one picked Houston. So I think they're both my siblings.
Isn't it your brother?
Sibling.
It's both my brothers.
I thought it was sibling and mom.
No,
No, because
Auburn.
she had Auburn. You're right. You're right. It's both your brothers. That's
Both
right.
my brothers.
How does it make you feel?
I
You're
finished-
the one brother with a podcast, and you get wiped,
Yeah, and one of them does not know ball at all,
and the other
then
one's
like
a high schooler.
14. Yeah.
So just
I don't think that.
tough scenes for Jimmy Neutron over here.
Yeah, I don't think that the other one is like watched a basketball game besides Mississippi State.
Or the games we watched yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
he
if they've
didn't
been on
watch
at
it.
the coop, but he's not really paying too much attention
He's
when they're
asleep,
on there.
for
He's
sure.
asleep or playing Brawl Stars. Yeah, tough look. I'm excited. Now as the Florida member of the crew, I'm very nervous because if Florida gets out to that slow start they've been getting out to, it's going to be trouble. But that's kind of our breakdown. Sanders, JP on Houston. I got Florida. Should be a good game.
I'm going to go ahead and bet it right now.
I personally want Houston to win, but I think Florida wins.
Yeah.
We can go on to the business side. We mentioned a week ago, we have a new chicken mascot.
I don't have it on the screen.
It's all good. They've seen it before. It's on our social medias. I mean, it's our cover photo everywhere. And we had to name the chicken. And the votes are in, and the votes supported what our consensus was on the show. JP, would you like to do the honors as the one that came up with the name?
Yeah, big shout out to Craig, the new chicken of
Yep.
Technical Foul. I know a great Craig in my life. He is the father of one of my good friends.
I also do. I just realized. Do you know Craig Jack?
I do not believe I know a Craig.
That's crazy.
You do now.
Yeah.
Craig
Yeah,
the chicken.
Now I know too. That's cool.
But yeah, shout out to Craig. I think it was one of the first names that came to mind when I saw it, and then I pitched it to a ton of my friends, and we all love Craig, our friend's father, a ton. So it was kind of a layup. Not that I influenced the election in that way, but it kind of went that way. But I do think it's
You
a
got your
deserving
people out
name.
to vote, Shout out.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fault me for campaigning for a name that you came up with. So, welcome to the family, Craig.
Very happy to have him here as
Yeah.
part of the team. He's going to do great things.
Yeah, I'm
I
very
mean-
excited to see the future of Craig with this podcast.
He's a talented chicken. He could really go places. Has to put it all together.
I mean,
but-
he is juggling balls and that. I mean, it's kind of fire.
He looks great in AI generated photos too so far. So
They were showing it to me before the show.
Roger
I'm
Goodell
gonna
does
have-
not look as great, I will say.
yeah,
Hit and
trying
miss.
to generate a photo of Craig the chicken, like standing next
Hugging.
to Roger
The
Goodell.
prompt was
like,
Craig, or a chicken hugging NFL commissioner.
mm-hmm.
it was terrifying.
Mixed results for
It
sure.
was terrifying.
but it was
Those
fun to
photos I
do.
will definitely not put up. I'm sorry, JP.
Yeah.
But one of them, Roger Goodell, had chicken feet.
I'll
the other
probably
one, the
post-
chicken had
I'll post one on Twitter.
human hands. Ugh. This one we didn't talk about before the show. JP, the Masters starts tomorrow.
No, it starts on Thursday.
How do I have it?
The practice rounds and stuff
Oh,
will start this week.
okay. That's why I have it
Tuesday
in
and
calendar.
Wednesday are practice rounds. Monday, a bunch of guys will
So
arrive to the course.
Wednesday will be our master show, is what I'm hearing.
Wednesday,
Cool.
posted on Thursday morning, will be our master show. I will break down the entire tournament.
Me and Jack will sit here in silence.
We may have a little bit of early on, kind of a Masters for Dummies type beat, where JP can at least explain why the tournament is so great,
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
and
that
who
would be-
who
that
the
would-
betting
We can
favorites
each bring
are
some
and stuff like
questions
that.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'll
Um,
give some of the best Masters moments ever. Have either of y'all watched the Masters?
I
I mean, I've
watch it,
seen
like,
a couple
almost every
holes
year.
here and there, but I don't. I'm not someone that's like I'm on the couch
Me and my
watching the
family-
Masters. Here we go.
My mom just loved it because it's like beautiful. And so in our house, I mean, forever, as long as I can remember, it'd be like Wimbledon and Masters. We would watch it just because of what it was. And so like we weren't glued to the TV, but I mean, growing up homeschooled, we would just put it on and then do our schoolwork with it on the background, or we would put it on and then like it would just be on while we ate our dinner or our lunch or whatever. So yes, we watched it every year, not religiously. My mom was always like had like emotional attachments to it because it was pretty. And then
Mhm.
the reason when you asked could we name one, I named Bubba Watson. It's because when he won, he like had his kid with him. And so for weeks, my mom was like, "Oh, it was adorable," and she just went on and on about that. So that's why Bubba Watson is in my memory because my
Yeah.
mom was so like, "Oh, little kid, adorable."
It is the greatest tournament in golf for one of my favorite sports, and there are just so many. It's the storytelling that goes on those hallowed grounds is insane. I have cried nearly every year watching the Masters, whether watching a champion win or watching a previous champion do really well, or even some of the heartbreak you've seen from moments like Jordan Spieth, Francesco Molinari when Tiger Woods won in 2019. And then they do such a great job with the presentation. The course is beautiful in person. I haven't seen it. I hope to see it one day, but on camera for sure. And then the broadcast just does an amazing job calling. It's my favorite broadcast in terms of a golf tournament throughout the entire year. Current favorite is Scotty Scheffler to win his third in 4 years, and then Rory McIlroy is the second favorite. I'll give my pick on Thursday morning show. It's going to be a very interesting tournament. We're not going to see Tiger Woods play, unfortunately, but we're going to see.
Did you see he tweeted on April 1st?
Yeah, that was kind of frustrating. I don't understand that tweet.
I think I thought it was pretty
He's
clear.
kind of been bad on Twitter recently, in my opinion.
I didn't know about that. I just saw the one thing.
I mean, I personally think posting anything on April Fool's sports related is not funny. But
I found it very frustrating for a member of the golfing community because all we want to see is this guy play in the tournament. We get to see that with a lot of previous champions, like Fred Couples plays every year, and Phil Mickelson playing every year is really cool to see. We just want him to see. We just want to see him out there playing. No one expected what he did in 2019, and we just want to see him playing in the tournament because for one, he brings a ton of eyeballs to the sport, and the sport deserves these eyeballs. These players are outstanding. Yeah, we just wish he was out there. So I did not appreciate the tweet whatsoever, especially with the amount of his injury history
Yeah.
in the past decade.
I guess I just knew. A ruptured Achilles. I just didn't even. It didn't bother me because I immediately was like, well, this is kind of a fun, whatever joke. So
But yeah, I will give my full breakdown on the Masters on Wednesday. I'll give you my favorite moments. I'll do a crash course on why the tournament is so cool. Why, in my opinion, it's a top 5 sporting event that goes on every single year. And I'll break it down also from a golfing perspective. Who's gonna win the tournament? Who's gonna play well?
Yep.
Who to look
That's gonna
out
be
for?
cool.
Who to put your life savings on?
nobody.
Do not put it on Bryson DeChambeau, although he'll be a trendy pick this year. But yeah, we'll break that down on Wednesday's show that'll go out Thursday morning.
That'll be cool.
we'll have that, and we'll have a national championship game reaction, and then our normal segments of the week, question of the week,
We
stuff
should
like
just-
that.
Live stream us watching the national championship.
Well, that'll be hard to do. as
Oh,
well.
you're right. Wait.
I mean,
We
we'd
have-
have time.
we have more business
could
to
do it.
attend to on the court
Oh yeah.
against the basketball players.
That's
Correct.
gonna be a fun game. Got to win that.
Must win game for intramural squad, the Banana Slugs, tomorrow
Yes.
night.
Did y'all get got by any April Fool's posts?
I did not.
I did not.
I got by one post. It was the Mississippi Valley State unofficial basketball.
Oh, he cooked you.
Yeah. Did you see the tweet?
I can't recall.
It actually made me so happy. Okay, so y'all know the story of the Mississippi Valley State. There is a Twitter account that began the season just titled Mississippi Valley State Men's Basketball. And they were tweeting final scores, but they did it in such a way as it promoted a lot of engagement and people who didn't know anything. Mississippi Valley State had the worst record in college basketball. They were last in Ken Palm, I believe.
364th.
Yes,
exact.
out of 364 teams.
Yes.
So they just created a lot of engagement, and they were super fun and interactive. And they would post at one point every time they won a game, they would post Mississippi Valley State 73, opposing team less than 73. Like they were just super funny, super silly. And then like 2/3 of the way through the season, they announced that they had got banned because they weren't the official account, which I don't know that anyone knew that. I didn't realize that, at least. So they got in trouble because they were not an official university account, so they got banned. They went back and added parody or unofficial in their title, and so they tweeted on April 1st. After long conversation with the athletic director, we have agreed to become the official basketball account, which in my brain I was like, oh, that's sick. The university, that Twitter account probably got more interaction than the rest of Mississippi Valley State social media combined. So I was like, oh, this is a good move for the account and for the university. 10 seconds later, as I'm sitting there, realized it was an April Fool's. I got. That's the one that got me. Pretty rough. I know a lot of people that got a lot more. So
I
grateful.
technically, I guess, unofficially got the night before, which is why I don't count it, because someone tweeted in April Fool's thing about Hunter Dickinson returning at 11:30 the night before.
Yeah.
So not officially April Fool's. I didn't have my mindset locked in yet. I'm not counting it.
Yep. Honestly, I should just not be on social media for all of April 1st.
You almost can't be. It's terrible. It's
Yeah.
one of my least favorite days of the year, I think, for that reason.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think we need all, as a society, need to come together and realize it's not funny and it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
And just move on. We've outgrown April Fools. I think that's all we have.
Yeah.
So if you're still with us, thanks for tuning in. It's a blast as always, and we will see y'all Thursday for the next episode. Thank y'all.
See ya.